felt he'd lost track of who he was. He knew what he did. He was a damn good bartender, a thrower of darts, a medium worker of wood. He was also divorced, an ex-Marine, ex-cop, ex-attorney. He'd even, for a time, been a father. 38 and some months, and he didn't know who he was. He tipped up the glass. Yeah, he thought. That wouldn't have been so bad, the plane crashing. Not good, not something to shoot for, but really not the worst tragedy in the world. He figured he'd already had that one. A shroud of gray enveloped the westernmost 20 blocks of San Francisco and extended from the middle of the Golden Gate Bridge down to Daly City. The fog covered an area of perhaps no more than 5 square miles, but within it, gusting winds of 30 miles per hour were not uncommon, and the temperature was 20 degrees lower than in the rest of the city. Nowhere was visibility greater than half a block, and squalls of bone-chilling drizzle drifted like malevolent ghosts across the drear landscape. In almost the precise center of this fog sat a squat, one-story frame house set back nearly 60 feet from the sidewalk. Hardy had thought when he bought it that it looked like the kind of dollhouse a sailor might have made for a daughter he'd never seen while he traveled to warm and exotic ports. It was a house that seemed to remember summers fondly, with a small, white latticed porch up 3 brick steps, broad white planks surrounding a jutting bay window. Dwarfed on the left and right by medium-rise apartment buildings, the house seemed especially quaint and vulnerable. Next to the porch, in front of the windows, a scrub juniper hugged the ground as though for warmth. The rest of the area just in front of the house, cleared for a garden that might have once been there, was barren. The lawn itself was green and slightly overgrown. Hardy sat in his office in the back. The shades were pulled and a coal fire burned in the grate. It was a Monday in the first week of June. Hardy picked up a dart and flung it at the board on the wall opposite him. He reached for his pipe, stopped himself, sat back. The wind slapped at the window, shaking it. Hardy pushed himself back from his desk and went to retrieve his round of darts, stopping to poke at the blue-burning coal. He wore a dirty pair of corduroys, a blue pullover sweater, and heavy gray socks. He rearranged some of the ships in bottles on his mantel and brushed the dust from one of his fossils. It crossed his mind that the average temperature of the entire universe, including all suns, stars, planets, moons, comets, black holes, quasars, asteroids, and living things, was less than 1 degree above absolute zero. He believed it. It had been 3 weeks since he'd returned from Cabo. He heard the cover drop at his mail slot, the late Monday delivery. As usual, his mail was a joke. He would have almost welcomed a bill just to have something addressed to him personally. As it was, he got an invitation to join a travel club, a special offer on cleaning his rugs, only $6.95 per room with a 3-room minimum, maybe not a bad deal if he had owned any rugs, a tube of some new toothpaste, a free advertising newspaper, 2 letters to the previous owner of his house, who had moved nearly 6 years before, and a "Have you seen this child?" postcard. He opened a can of hash and spooned it into a heavy cast-iron skillet. When it had stuck well to the bottom of the pan, he pried under it and turned it nearly whole. Poking 3 holes into the mass, he dropped an egg into each, covered it, and went to the tank in his bedroom to feed the tropical fish. He went back to the kitchen and opened a newspaper to the sports section. The Giants were at home. That ought to keep the ghosts at bay. He ate the hash and eggs out of the skillet slowly, thinking. When the skillet was empty, he placed it back on the stove, covering the bottom with salt. He turned the flame under it up high. When the pan was smoking, he took the wire brush that hung from the back of the stove and ran it around under the salt, dumping what he had worked loose into the garbage. In 20 seconds, the pan was spotless. He ran a paper towel over it, then left it on the stove. He'd had that pan longer than almost anything else he owned. It was the only household article he'd taken when his marriage to Jane had ended. If he treated it right, no water, no soap, it would last a lifetime. It was one of the few things he was absolutely sure of, and he didn't mess with it. In his bedroom, he put on a 3/4-length green peacoat, boots, and a misshapen blue Greek sailor's cap. Grabbing a pipe from the rack on his desk, he risked a glance outside, but someone might just as well have erected a slate wall there.